December 2024, a thick contract was slammed on the desks of every team owner. The message from NASCAR CEO Jim France was clear as day. Sign this document by midnight. Every major team owner signed, every single one except for two. One of them was Michael Jordan. What was buried inside would be something devastating. But what exactly were the words in that contract that made Michael Jordan not sign and made him take Jim France to court? And how did Michael Jordan stop the France Dynasty's chance of permanent control over NASCAR? First, we gotta start with the money and the people behind it.
I'm talking about this.
The court documents trace the history of the France family monopoly enterprise back generations. NASCAR was founded by Big Bill France Sr. and has been a private company controlled by the France family racing dynasty ever since. ESPN has even said that they were the most powerful lineage in American sports. For nearly 75 years, they have operated as an isolated, impenetrable kingdom. The court document also says that the dynasty has been determined to prevent its drivers or teams from asserting their economic rights. When Jordan's group poured approximately over $35 million into his racing team, they were tapping into a financial stream that should have been flowing like a river. No, like a waterfall. Why? Because NASCAR has generated over $23.1 billion in broadcast money alone. Their latest TV deal is guaranteeing over $1.1 billion annually. This sport is literally saturated in cash, so that means that the team should be thriving, right? But even the best teams, the one producing the racing product people pay to see, aren't. This is what basically broke the camel's back. In 2016, NASCAR introduced the Charter Agreements, a set of long-term contracts intended to give teams, like Jordan's, stability and guaranteed revenue. Sounds like a fair and even contract, right? But here's the thing. High-profile owners like Jeff Gordon of Hendrick Motorsports have publicly stated their race teams haven't been consistently profitable in years.
We don't make money, right? I mean, it's one of those. I don't think Hendrick Motorsports has made a profit in 10 years.
They are literally forced to spend millions just to make millions and just break even, while the France family is raking over $1 billion annually. The teams claim the France family is intentionally siphoning off profits, making sure the team remains weak and dependent on them. But something isn't making sense here. How do you legally keep billions of dollars away from the people who actually earn it without sparking a lawsuit? Jordan's lawsuit argues that NASCAR wasn't just controlling the tracks, they were controlling them, the teams who are also the buyers. They intentionally built a system to make sure teams could never escape. And it's all thanks to a rare legal structure called a monopsony. Monopsonies are often invisible to the public, but their effect is to grant the single buyer, NASCAR, the power to dictate all the terms and prices to the sellers, the teams. And they lock down that system with a deliberate double-barreled strategy. First, by acquiring all the critical real estate, and second, by controlling the very tools of the trade. Every $1 billion earned by the France family was immediately reinvested into separating the team and the dynasty. All that $1 billion in revenue was only designed to lead to one terrifying clause. A clause Jordan's legal team would immediately use against their owners, but more on that later on.
Some takeover news involving NASCAR. Shares of International Speedway.
They claim NASCAR works as a monopoly and limits revenues and freedom for individual teams.
But the judge in this case has acknowledged that NASCAR is, for lack of a better word, a monopoly.
The first move in the monopsony playbook was to control the environment itself, to eliminate any possible alternatives. NASCAR acquired International Speedway Corporation for a massive $2 billion, a move that effectively transferred ownership from 13 premier racetracks, including legendary venues you might know like Daytona and Talladega. But what would this actually do? If you own the venues, you control the entire schedule and all of the related revenue, including concessions, tickets, and local advertising. It gave the France family total control over the supply of racing events. But their control didn't stop at the tracks they owned. For any track they didn't already own, like the famous Pocono Raceway, NASCAR forced them to sign an anti-competitive exclusivity clauses, which means these clauses explicitly forbade those tracks from hosting any other major stock car races that might compete with a NASCAR event. And this is where the shocking detail comes in. The lawsuit claims NASCAR even acquired a smaller competitor, ARCA, the Automobile Racing Club of America, specifically just to eliminate the competition, then permanently relegated ARCA to a lower level feeder series. Their control basically just kept mounting and mounting. They eliminated all possible competition, creating a closed loop where teams, sponsors, and fans had only one place to watch the race. This move guaranteed that team owners could never take their business elsewhere, no matter how bad the financial terms became. And this was just the first layer, but to make their trap fail-proof basically, they had to control the tools of the trade, the cars themselves, ensuring that every dollar invested by Jordan's team only served the France family enterprise. In 2022, NASCAR introduced a new generation of cars, the next-gen model, which introduced a new era of standardized control. But these cars came with an incredible financial obligation and burden. Teams must spend around $3 million per year just on parts and components for a single vehicle. This isn't a one-time expense, it's annual, meaning every year, and NASCAR is just digging deeper and deeper into the owner's pockets. Jordan's team pays for these parts. They install them, they maintain them, they're the ones putting in the labor, the cash, and the effort to keep them running. But when Jordan's legal team reviewed the contract, they found something that turned their investment into a permanent financial liability. Teams are already forbidden from using the parts in any other racing series, meaning you can't race them in Formula 1, IndyCar, or even local stock car leagues. They can't sell them freely on open market. They can't even use them for independent research and development, which stops innovation within teams. Imagine spending all this money on parts, and especially the car, and not being able to do anything with it. And this isn't the shocking part. This is just normal, standard monopolistic behavior. What was actually shocking for the owners was this. All those expensive next-gen car parts, purchased with the team's money, you know, the ones they had to spend $3 million on, those remain property of NASCAR. The owner's multi-million-dollar investment is literally an expensive rental that binds them financially to NASCAR, which is the exact point of a monopsony. The owners are forced to invest millions of dollars annually into assets they can never own. The moment an owner decides to leave the sport, they walk away with nothing but debt, leaving their physical assets behind. The teams are left with a very expensive racing car that can only be used for NASCAR Cup Series races. By 2024, Michael Jordan was running a team that was basically trapped on every level. They didn't control the track, they didn't control the profit, and they didn't even truly control the cars that they paid all this money on. All that left was a final devastating act of corporate greed, a signature that would grant permanent immunity. NASCAR had eliminated all avenues of escape, and every single action was pressure leading to the most important decision of the year. Now that everything was in place, the France family dynasty was ready for the final nail in the coffin. NASCAR sent the 2025 charter agreement with the sense of sign this by midnight or lose your entire investment. And just like that, every team signed except for two, Jordan's and Front Row Motorsports. Here's why. They first noticed an immediate threat in the agreement renewal, the expanded non-compete clause. The contract banned teams from participating in any automobile or truck racing series not sanctioned by NASCAR. This made it absolutely impossible for owners to seek alternative venues, competition, or profit, which they desperately needed after spending millions of dollars. Also, this meant that they were stuck in creating revenue for NASCAR and nobody else. The ultimatum was so extreme that team owners who did sign a new contract, the majority of the sport, later described their decision as being coerced and made under duress. One owner went on record saying NASCAR put a gun to our head, and another privately called the dynamic a communist regime. The fact that these owners refused to let their names be revealed speaks volume about the level of intimidation and control that the France dynasty allegedly wielded. Jordan's legal team spotted the most disturbing clause in the entire 100-page document. A clause so extreme it revealed the true motive behind the entire monopsony scheme. NASCAR knew their entire system, controlling the tracks, the cars, and the profit, was fundamentally illegal under American antitrust law, specifically the Sherman Act. The Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890 was designed to promote fair competition by outlawing anti-competitive practices, specifically contracts, conspiracies, and combinations that restrain trade, and prohibiting monopolization or attempts to monopolize commerce. I mean, it sounds exactly what they're trying to do. Their corporate strategy was preempted legal defense. Build a massive business based on illegal monopolistic practices, and then use a single clause to shield that business from prosecution. Why did Jim France force this midnight deadline knowing it would spark a lawsuit? What drove Michael Jordan to say no was a mandatory release clause. The other team signed it, but Michael Jordan's legal team refused. By signing this one clause, every team owner would have been legally accepting that they released their right to assert future antitrust claims. This was it. This was their plan all along. It reveals that NASCAR's entire strategy was to make their multi-billion-dollar monopoly untouchable by law and forever sealed by the monopsony. They were attempting to force the teams to sign a document that would forever legalize their corporate theft. Jordan's refusal explains why this lawsuit is the only thing standing between the France family and becoming a dictatorship. But again, why did they put that in knowing it would spark a lawsuit? Because the legal benefits of getting this one clause signed far outweighed the cost and the risk of any lawsuit. So after years of planning, spending millions in acquisitions, and a midnight ultimatum, NASCAR's entire corporate scheme came down to this single moment. Would Jordan sign away his rights? Well, this confrontation didn't begin in court. It started in the negotiating room. As the clock was ticking down on the expiring team charters at the end of 2024, after negotiations collapsed, NASCAR delivered a final take-it-or-leave-it deal late in September 6, 2024, threatening to throw away the charter system entirely unless teams signed a contract that included a ridiculous arrangement: a release of their rights to ever sue NASCAR. On October 2, 2024, standing on business, Jordan and his team filed their lawsuit, an antitrust complaint that was, in Jordan's words, the only way to free up the market for competition.
The point is that the sport itself needs to continue to change for the better, for the fans as well as for the teams.
At the center of the issue, money, media rights, and how much teams should receive under NASCAR's new charter system.
Eventually, the battle moved on to the courtroom, and on December 11, 2025, the France family's empire ended abruptly on the 9th day of this testimony.
So we are delighted to tell the world of NASCAR and its fans that this case has been settled.
Two sides reached a settlement over months of tension over team operations and financial transparency.
Let's just say it didn't go well for the NASCAR team. There were weeks of evidence that went terribly for them.
And I think both parties got to that point, and we realized that we could have an opportunity to settle this, and we dove in and we actually did it.
Including an economist who testified that they owed $364.7 million in damages, and also an internal scandal over derogatory emails being exposed. And then it happened. Outside the federal courthouse, the settlement was announced. All teams were granted the permanent charters they had fought for, the exact thing NASCAR previously refused to consider. The litigation forced NASCAR to seek permanent injunction to dismantle their exclusionary practices and expose them to trebled monetary damages under the Sherman Act. As a direct result of Jordan's suit, Jordan's racing team and Front Row Motorsports will also receive their 6 combined charters back for the season of 2026, which could be worth about $210 million or more. As U.S. District Judge Kenneth Bell told the jury, sometimes parties in a trial have to see how the evidence unfolds to come to the wisdom of a settlement. This is the story of how Michael Jordan, standing on business, won the biggest corporate fight in motorsports history and secured the permanent freedom and financial future of an entire sport. As Michael Jordan said outside the courthouse, "I've said this from day one, the only way this sport is going to grow is we have to find some synergy between the two entities."